Hello and welcome to my studio. I thought I would start a new project where I have to step out of my comfort zone a little bit. I'm going to try to paint a painting using a little bit more of a abstract type of approach. Or you could say it's kind of a blend of realistic with abstract elements. Um, and I'm going to be using as a subject matter a guitar that my husband has, a Taylor guitar that hangs in our house that he's had for many years. So let's see what I have so far. I decided that I needed to take the time to do at least some kind of a study, a little representative drawing anyway of what I was planning on doing. And I started by taking a photograph of one of my husband's favorite guitars. It's called a Taylor guitar. He has several guitars, and this was one of the ones hanging on the wall. And then I printed out that photograph and added a second version of that photograph right there. And then I went and scribbled in little notes everywhere about what colors, what shapes I was thinking of using. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit so you can see that better. So here you can see some lines that I drew. Those are going to be white lines, and I put different color choices, ideas for different colors that I want in here. Same thing about the background. You can see here that I've put indicated some lines here and some lines here and shapes and lines here, and each of those has kind of a color assigned to it. Here's what I have so far. I took my kind of mock-up drawing and enlarged it and traced it on here. And you can see there's a guitar here and a guitar here, just like in my mock-up. And then I have some lines and circles in the background and on the guitars themselves to act as the abstract component of it. You'll notice that the head of the guitar, where it says Taylor, looks still fairly realistic, and that's on purpose. I wanted that to kind of stand out from the more abstract elements of the rest of it. I didn't exactly know how to do an abstract background. The most I've ever done is just kind of fuzzy, soft, mingled backgrounds. But I knew I wanted something with stronger visual elements, and so I decided on a geometric shapes as my background. And to figure out what to do, I just looked at a whole bunch of other abstract paintings that used geometric elements and tried to get some ideas for how to approach this. And one thing I noticed is that almost all of them had some combination of straight lines, like the guitars and these lines, with some curving elements, like the guitars and the little center holes that the string goes over. And so I played with that a lot. And I think I'm really happy with the way that this turned out. To me, when I just look at the drawing, it looks very pleasing. These lines and these lines represent music staff like you would see on some written music. But you know, I'm kind of pleased. I'm pleased with how this looks so far. I did already start putting masking fluid on the areas that I want to remain white. I had to use a really thin liner brush. The liner brush is just has long, narrow bristles. And I did just have a really steady hand. I did pre-draw my lines using a long ruler, which was helpful, but I couldn't come up with a better way to apply the masking fluid to these long sections, so I just did it very carefully and slowly and tried not to wobble around too much. The next thing I need to do is I need to finish some of the masking fluid because the lines that go this way on the neck of the guitars are called fretboards. This is the fretboard, and these are the frets. And I need to put masking fluid on each of those. And then the next thing after that is I'm going to take a look at the colors that I have in my plan and just do some testing on a separate piece of paper to make sure I have a pretty solid idea of what I want in terms of colors. So let's proceed. Here's the color scheme that I'm thinking of using. I kind of wanted to go with kind of an orange-blue complement color scheme. And so I'm using just some of my favorite colors for that. Cobalt Teal by Ingram, that's a fun color that I love. And then I'll be having, I'm thinking of some ultramarine blue, which is Ingram, and a Winsor blue green shade, which is the same as phthalo blue or phthalo blue green shade. I can use ultramarine blue mixed with burnt sienna to make some lovely grays. And if I add Winsor blue green shade into that gray mix, I can get this nice kind of dulled down shade of blue. I can also use the ultramarine blue and the burnt sienna to make some very dark darks that are have a little bit of color in them. You know, they can lean either towards blue or lean towards brown. But I may end up using some lamp black by Daniel Smith for the very darkest areas. We'll have to see. For the oranges, I'm going to use Quinacridone Rose by Ingram, and I'm thinking of mixing it with New Gamboge by Daniel Smith. I can get some nice little warmy red oranges and oranges out of that. And here's kind of a little sample of them going from one color to another. I can drop some burnt sienna in to create some interesting effects. I'll probably try to do some textures in at least some of these, maybe not all of them, but I'm thinking of using saran wrap actually for the cobalt teal sections, at least part of them. And I might do a little bit of splattering where you take paint on your brush and you just whack, whack, whack this way, whack, 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 and get that paint to kind of shoot off your brush into little droplets. Or I may even end up adding some water drops. And of course, as much as possible, my sections of color, which are called washes, I'm going to try to have mingled colors rather than being just one solid color. Okay, I'm going to start with the light ones, light colors, and I may use some tape along the edges of the straight areas just to help me stay within the lines as much as possible. Okay, let's go. Okay, I think it's done. When I look at it, it makes me feel happy, and that's usually the sign that to myself that I don't need to do anything else. I really liked the type of abstract realism that was in this painting, and I think this particular type of abstract is called cubism, uh, if I understand right. And I like the color composition. I like the complements of the orangey reds against the blues. And Taylor is one of my favorite guitars too. I don't play guitar, but my husband does. And he's had this guitar a very long time. So I started out with this photo of his guitar hanging on the wall and kind of mocked it up, ended up with that. I had been rather nervous about stepping out of my comfort zone when I decided to paint this sort of semi-realistic, semi-abstract painting. But I have to say I had a lot of fun with it. I had fun trying to figure out where to put the various squares of color and the lines and the dots and the circles, and it was just kind of fun. I kind of went into the project thinking that painting something in a more abstract manner like this would be actually easier than what I'm used to, and that didn't turn out to be the case. Just like any painting that I do, I had to come up with a composition. I had to decide what colors I was going to use. I had to figure out all those pieces ahead of time. But still, even with that, it was still a lot of fun and I enjoyed it a lot. So I'm thinking that I might go ahead and paint 2 more paintings of guitars so that I have a series of 3. And do them all in the same general style, but use, of course, different designs, different colors, and I'll probably pick a different favorite guitar of mine for each one. So I hope they turn out. Let's see how it happens. Thanks. Bye.